Hello and welcome to this episode of the MediaTech Podcast. We are in Houston. This is the very first podcast here in Houston, so congratulations, guys.
I'm glad to make it on the debut one.
I'm here with Eric and Benji. Can you tell me a little bit about what you do here?
As far as here in MediaTech, I'm the live sound teacher. I teach live sound 1, 2, and live sound mixing. Outside of here, I am a live sound engineer at a local church and at House of Blues. I've also worked at a few other venues around town, but that's mainly what I kind of try to focus on. Live sound.
I am Eric, and I teach studio techniques and advanced Pro Tools here at MediaTech, and I work also at House of Blues with Benji. I work also at a church, Hope Rising in Cypress, Texas. I've worked at multiple venues from Sugarland Smart Financial Center to Prevention Center. Just worked in many spaces and many places, from studios to even radio stations.
Awesome. Well, let's segue from House of Blues because today we're talking about a career in live sound for students and graduates of MediaTech, and I guess just any audio production graduate out there. So y'all's experience at those venues makes you especially suited to talk about that. So what are some of the differences for a student that had just graduated, or maybe they're a current student kind of feeling their way through their initial career, that might decide to test the waters out in live sound as opposed to studio?
Live sound, like, easiest way to say it is for live sound compared to the studio, live sound is a lot faster. The speed that you have to have in the live sound will always, outweigh what you do in the studio. Where in the studio, you can come in and you can just kind of like take your time with everything. You can prepare. You have an idea of what's going on. Live sound, all that is a fraction of what you would normally have. So you don't have the same amount of time to experiment. You don't have the same amount of time to get ready. The stuff that you do has to already be kind of like pre-thought out and almost second nature so that you can make things work in a certain way. I've always said it that what we do in live sound, like what we're trying to do is save lives because like if say in the studio somebody has their lines put out in a certain way, nobody's really going to die. They trip over it, it's just something might get broken or anything like that. But if in live sound somebody trips over a cable and falls off stage and breaks their neck, we got to make sure that we're not a liability, that we're not causing other liabilities, that things aren't a problem. So we're watching out for that. How we choose to go about a mix, how we choose to go about patching things, our mic selection and our mic setup, everything like that has to be kind of with an idea behind it, because we're not going to have that much time to go back and fix it if we have to. There's been plenty of times that I myself or even Eric or plenty of engineers that I know we don't have time to do even a sound check. We'll come in, a band is up, we have 5 minutes to put the entire band patch them together and get them ready to go, and then immediately start the show. Versus, in the studio, like once you record everything, that's it. Like, you have the time. It's like, okay, let's do another take. All right, let's try this again. You know what? Let's change out this microphone. Like, we don't have that luxury. We don't have luxuries. That's basically it.
So run and gun, really.
Yeah.
Like, man, that sounds exciting though, right?
Oh yeah.
It is. It really tests your skill as an audio engineer. It really puts you up to see if you're worth your metal, your whatever your gusto is, because you are now decided. You now have to make those decisions on a fly. So you have to decide, how much am I cutting on this? How much am I EQing out? Am I over compressing? Am I setting too much reverb? And whatever changes you decide to do, people will notice it and people will hear it if you don't on the first try. So if you're like, oh, whoop, too much reverb, everyone's going to hear it because you now have 2,000 people listening to what your work is. And any changes or adjustments that you make have to be made very, precise.
That's interesting. So what would be like a typical day? Like, describe, you get to the venue, then what?
All right. Typical day, like, we gotta go in. We're definitely going to go in a little bit earlier. Wait for the tour to come out, meet the tour, figure out who's doing what, go outside, load all the equipment in. We've had shows where people are coming in with 2 semis, sometimes more. Mm-hmm. Load everything out. That includes lights, audio equipment, video equipment. Sometimes we have hands, sometimes we don't.
Merchandise. There's a lot of stuff that's coming in. So our day looks like, I come in, we get a list of things that are going to come in, like lights, speakers, or these microphones coming in, or what band is, maybe an input list of what all it is, like vocal mics, guitar mics, or what we need to set up and patch and run through, where we need to place monitors. Then tour comes in, and that could change on the fly.
Yeah.
We could say, oh, hey, they said they're going to bring in 2 stacks of guitars. Well, sadly, last night at the previous show, one blew out. Now we have to make an adjustment. Now we have to make a change. So whatever we plan for is going to change on us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so then that happens. Then, like, I'll say on a big day, we got to wait for video to get set up first. Then probably lights. And then we can finally start with audio, make sure all that happens. We're going to try to run a sound check. If there's support acts or open or anything like that, then we have to take care of them. Hopefully try to do all of this before doors, because if we take too long to open doors, people can start asking for refunds, so time is money. Then, the show starts. Everything has to seem seamless, basically. I think a wise man once said, like, a good audio engineer is the engineer that you don't know is there.
Yeah.
Right? So we have to make everything seem like we're not there. And then at the end of the night, take everything right back down and load everything out. So we're easily having 15, 16, 17-hour days sometimes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It's really stressful, but I'll say like this. I feel like the payoff, right, is much more immediate than the studio engineers. This is really what I always ended up loving about live sound. Sometimes in the studio, like the guys there, they won't actually see the client or an audience react to their mix, you know, versus for us, once we have everything set up and ready to go, even if we're stressed out, once we start mixing, we can easily just look to the side and see people dancing to what we're doing or smiling or just vibing out. And to me, that's always been a great payoff. When you see somebody, like, they don't have to tell you, their entire body is telling you that they are enjoying what's going on. And I don't know, there's not really a price on that, in my opinion. So it's all worth it.
I agree with you. There's nothing better. Like, I love doing worship sound churches because if you can get that mix just right, if you can get that moment where everyone just lets go and you see the hands raise and everyone goes into a moment of praise, you did your job because that reverb just hit just right, that delay just hit, that solo on the guitar, those background vocals, that work that you're doing automatically, something that if you were in the studio you could program to do, but you're doing it by hand. You're moving those faders and you're moving back and forth and you're moving with the music in time at the same time. And when that just works perfectly and you just see that moment, that rush, that dance, that let go, that enjoyment, that they're not in a venue anymore, they're experiencing music, and you see that because you're right behind them. Yeah. You're just like, oh, like that was worth it. That's that aha moment that you're like, okay, all this hard work, all this sweat, all these early hours, 12-hour, 15-hour days, there it is right there.
I mean, it's got to be a similar payoff to like what a musician feels on stage, like that direct connection with the audience, right? I mean,
definitely.
So, I mean, I come from a film background, so I have, very little knowledge of what you guys are getting into with live sound. I have a couple questions about that. What about different genres, right? So, like, if you're working at House of Blues, one night might be like a rapper, next night might be like a screamo band or whatever. How do you deal with that? And I guess you have to learn real quick the different kind of mixes and what those kind of bands require, right?
Oh, definitely. I think that it's a gift and a curse. The curse is like, oh crap, I really don't know how to deal with this. But the gift is that you get introduced to these different genres really quick. Like for guys, I guess even in film it'll be the same thing, right? There's guys that like they have their forte, like this is my genre of film, I can do this. Then you stick them on something else, they're kind of lost. It's the same way that I feel for some studio guys, they're really good at say like hip hop, but then you stick them behind a rock mix and they have no idea what to do. So the live sound guy, he really doesn't have that luxury. He has to like, well, I don't know this genre, but I'm going to have to find a way to make it work. So he either has to go to the side before the show starts, immediately start listening to something or start trying to feel the music. And after a while, he's been introduced to so many genres in such a quick amount of time. He's learned ways to really adapt immediately, the engineers that I've seen that have been able to do that and survive in live sound, they'll usually go into a different setting and still kind of be able to adapt really quick. You know, I think that's the real difference between the live sound engineers and the studio engineers, the adaptability of like, okay, this just changed, but we have to, regardless, go with it or figure it out. You know, it's awesome.
But to forward that point, I think the best thing that you can do to prepare for this problem is getting what's called reference tracks. Start listening to other music, other genres beyond what you do to prepare for this, and find that song. What is that country song that makes you like love country and enjoy this genre? What is that rap song? What is that rock song? What's that screamo song, that metal song? That when you play it, you know it. So you already know how that kick drum should sound across a hip-hop album versus it should sound like across a metal album versus a country album. You'll know those differences, so you'll know this is the mic choice I should make, this is the EQ, the gate, the compression, whatever the reverb choice that you place on it to put it across.
That's really, I mean, I can imagine that kind of knowledge must be super powerful if you ever decide to move your career into the studio, right? Because at that point you're already aware of all these different mixes, and you probably have inspiration across different genres, that you may not have otherwise, right?
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah. Definitely. The sense of that, you got an ear for these different genres, and you've been introduced to different genres firsthand, rather than even just from a CD. You've actually seen the audience, you've seen the bands, you've seen the kind of people that go there, what they're looking for, what they expect. But the other one too is that you get to meet the engineers within this audience too, and you get to ask them questions and start picking little tidbits of knowledge here and there that I feel like a lot of people don't get. You meet a guy that he opened up his own studio. He might have met some other engineers here and there, but typically he was by himself. Versus, again, like in live sound, just every day you're meeting somebody else that might approach something a little bit different. You learn to appreciate those little things. Like I know me and Eric, we don't mix the same at all. We have very different styles, but we get to see why this works here, why this works here, why both of them are good, but just different. And you get to appreciate different mixing styles right off the bat, for not even just for different genres, but just because the person's different.
Yeah, I mean, and also I guess it's a really great way to meet people that are in the business, right? I mean, an opportunity that students straight out of school may not have otherwise,
Yeah, this is true. It's a great place to learn. I mean, I know I've gotten better from just asking, hey, I love how that bass sounds across your mix. How did you do that? Like, I can't get I can't get myself to sound like that. How did you do it? And everyone's usually like, yeah, let me share this knowledge. We're passionate. We love what we do. So to share it is just easy, just to pass it on, and you get to see, oh, this is what you did, this is what I was doing, this is where I can adjust it to maybe match myself or just take the whole technique completely.
Gotcha. And so for bigger acts that really need consistency between shows, like how does that work? Do they have their own personnel that go from venue to venue to make sure that it's sounding right, or do you work straight with the performers to make sure that it's up to what they want to hear, or how does that all work?
Typically, if they're big enough, then yeah, they'll have their own guys. I've even seen some tours come in that are big enough to where they even have their own PA system.
Oh, wow.
Right? It's not the most common one. Obviously, these guys have a lot of money, so when that does come around, that's a lot of work for us because we're there, we're helping set everything up. But yeah, they have their own guys, their own equipment, because they are looking for consistency, right? The guys that are willing to sacrifice a little bit of consistency are the ones that will use the PA. If they're willing to sacrifice a little bit more, they won't bring their own engineers. So,
gotcha. Well, cool. What would you say to a student that's trying to feel their way out in an audio career, not sure where to go? Like if you had to tell them about the strengths of live sound, or if maybe they want to be a studio producer, what would be your advice to a student in that position?
My advice is the same advice my mentor gave me. If you want to be a great engineer or a better engineer than what you are now, you should get a live sound gig. Even if that's not what you want to do, guaranteed it will just make you better. All right, it's a great place to learn. It's a great place to get faster. It's a great place to get rid of some bad habits that you might pick up if you were to do it on your own, or that you might already have. So I just always recommend getting a live sound gig to start off. And I don't mean a live sound gig at a church where everything's already kind of the same. I mean like an actual, let me go into this venue and start working with different bands and different acts in different spaces immediately.
How about you?
So what I would say is definitely, if you're interested in trying to figure out what you're trying to do, is just go ahead and try it. You can go in, and most places are looking for always someone to help out and do some kind of work in live. If you wanted to do like recording or in studio or mixing, pick up a session, record some music, just do it. I can't stress that enough. The more you practice and the more you do, the more better you will get at your craft. And if you want to learn it, just try it. There's always someone out there available looking for someone to help them out with it, to either be an assistant in a studio to help them out, or an assistant on stage to help them run the show. And that's where you can get practice. That's where you can get a place to do it. But specifically towards live sound, I agree with Benji. That's the place where you go to just kind of like learn, to really like, because now you have to figure out, okay, I have to make this choice, this decision, and it has to be almost instantaneous. And you'll figure out like, oh, this is my reference to the way I like things to sound.
So I was wondering if you had any like success stories from MediaTech of grads that you might know that have taken that route. Any particular exciting stories?
I've been lucky enough to see two of my students actually working. One of my students working with me at House of Blues, I've gotten to see their mix getting a lot better actually now that they're in an environment where they get to actually practice and learn in a real scenario. So I can see them learning how troubleshooting like problems and issues, and if I'm mixing in a smaller room to a larger room to these instruments, to these things, how to treat those things. Another student of mine who's been producing and working with me on helping make music, seeing how they've now taken what they've learned here and what they've been working on to say, okay, this is how I want to mic things, or this is how I want to make choices, or do this or do that, and really help produce and make music now further on to the next step, I guess.
That's really cool. What do you think sets someone that's successful in live sound apart from someone that may not be as successful? Like, what do you think are core qualities that a person needs to have to really tackle that?
First and foremost is humility. As weird as that might sound, usually the biggest problems that I've always found is whenever you meet that engineer that just thinks he has all the answers and immediately thinks the artist doesn't know what they want. I'll actually quote Eric for this one, when he says typically the engineer, especially like a monitor engineer, he's the translator between the artist and the equipment. The artist knows what they want, but they don't know how to talk audio. We have to do it for them. All right, we're translators, and so a lot of guys don't get that in their head, that it's not about you, it's about everyone else. It's what the audience wants, it's what the artist wants, it's what the manager wants. You're just there to make it happen. So if you have this ego that it needs to be this way and it always must be this way and your way is right and everyone else is wrong, it's just really not going to work. And after a while, people don't really want to work with you, right? So that'd be probably the main one that I see, your ability to act, just accept that, like, hey, you know what? Let me try this way. Kind of like we said earlier, like, this person's doing something, it's better than my way. What is he doing? Let me go ask what's going on with that. An ability to actually talk to other people. I know I myself, I'm a pretty shy guy. I want to immediately start talking to people, but at work, I have no choice. I gotta start networking. I gotta start meeting people. The more you're willing to step out of yourself, right, the more successful you can be in this career.
Creative thinking is probably the best thing I can give you, because you're going to get to a point where troubleshooting is is going to be the thing that's holding you back. Why isn't this PA working? Why isn't this mic working? Why isn't this amp turning on? Why isn't this thing happening? And you have to now say, okay, well, if I know this is the problem, or this issue or that, and I can break it down piece by piece, you can start saying, okay, if that's what I know, let me break down the signal flow path, let me break down how everything is getting there and what could be the issue. And you have to start thinking, okay, if it's not that, then is it this? Is it that? Is it then this? A lot of people will just go, it's not working, freeze and just give up. Or if turning it on doesn't do it, can you find another creative option to solve that problem too? Is not only just like maybe trying to do something different, or can you replace, if you don't have X thing, what can you do to make it work? If you're short a microphone, if you're short a cable, if you're short of this or you're short of that, how can you creatively figure out, okay, if I do this, I know this will work, and do this. And that gets you to be better, because now you find new techniques, new styles, new things to do to make your stuff work better.
Yeah.
Awesome.
To kind of piggyback off of that, basically you need to have a foundation. I think a lot of guys, they think that being an engineer means you have a good mix, and there's more to being an engineer than just your mix, right? Your ability to troubleshoot is your ability to understand the stuff outside of the mixer and outside of just mixing. I've seen a lot of guys that they'll come in, they have a problem, and if they can't fix it on the board, they don't know what to do, which I've never considered somebody like that an engineer. They might be a fader pusher, they might be a good mixer, but they don't really understand audio and the actual foundation of it, of how we connected everything together, how going into the mic comes out of a speaker, and everything in between. So having a good foundation and relying on that foundation for sure. One person told me that he would never hire an engineer based off of his mix, because 90% of the problems we go through are off of it. So I try to tell that to a lot of people, but many people still get stuck in this idea. It's like, I have this great mix. I'm like, it's cool, right? No, like, now fix this. Oh, I can't do that. Well, then what good are you?
That's interesting, man. So if anybody's out there listening to this, that either they're in high school or an adult looking for a career in audio, what might you tell them about MediaTech?
For sure, the bit of time that I've been here, I've come to really respect the professors here.
Oh, that was gonna be my answer too. that was the biggest one.
But it's true. That's the thing. The more I've gotten to talk to the professors, the more that I've gotten to hear what they do, how they do it. There's a huge array of knowledge from multiple aspects of audio, and the students that have been willing to just sit down and listen to what the professor is saying leaves with that knowledge. These professors are not afraid to give you their knowledge. If anything is worth the money here, it's the amount of knowledge from firsthand knowledge that these professors can give you. And not even just for myself. There's plenty of engineers here that I really respect. I always want to know what they think about what I've done. If they have a suggestion, I'm considering it. I'm listening to it. I'm going to try it, because I know that they know what they're talking about, and I want to take it for myself as well. So I would suggest that the students do the same. So anyone interested in a career here, like, they are going to find professors that can really help them grow. Period.
Yeah, no, most definitely. I have to say the same thing. Going to school and going to other places, you will find people who are teachers, foremost teachers, which isn't a bad thing. It's not terrible, but Benji here and I still work out in this industry. We still go, like, after we're done with this podcast, we're going to go work on projects and do other things. Same with every other professor here. Every professor here has experience, so much experience in the field. They've done it. They've gone through the problems. They know everything. They can give you the little pro tip helps of saying, like, hey, carry a little bottle of deodorant in your backpack because it's going to be a long day. So everyone here has experience in the real world to tell you, hey, this is what I went through. This is what we've gone through. And let me share that with you, because that's what you really need. We talk about it all the time, like, when it comes to, like, mixing or doing anything, a lot of people rely on books and things and, like, precise things, but, like, at the end of the day, we work in music, we work in entertainment, we rely on this more than anything else. Then, like, up here, it's here. The music, like, everything that we do is there, and you see, if you understand maybe the knowledge, our teachers here also know, like, this part and how to get to that part and, like, translate and communicate that all together.
I love that. So experience is the number one thing, huh? Yeah. I mean, every instructor I meet here is just so gracious. I graduated from the Dallas campus several years ago for film, and I completely agree with you. Like, every instructor that I met at MediaTech currently is working in the field, and several of them through the track that I was in film had worked on big films, right? And it's just the opportunity to pick their brain, you know, if you're having a little issue or if you need some creative inspiration or whatever, they're always there, you know. And if anybody out there listening might be interested in checking out MediaTech, we have Dallas and Houston locations. You can book a tour, come check it out. If you're watching this on YouTube, check out this studio. This is one of several studios in the Houston location and several studios in general of MediaTech. And this is freaking awesome, right?
Yeah, no, the facility is great. There's a lot of classrooms here when it comes to the studio stuff. We have like libraries, spaces for you to work on and practice on. So it's awesome.
And the level of collaboration, too, between the students is huge, at least in my experience, because there's audio or recording arts, there's digital film, there's animation, there's web design and mobile app development. So, I mean, you could be walking down the hallway, you're a film guy, there's an audio guy, and you might need to be working together on a project. And it's just so easy to find and meet people. And I still talk with some of the people that I graduated with and work with them on a frequent basis. So the ability just to network at MediaTech is great. But if you are interested, check out mediaTech.edu and make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening to this, and check out our YouTube channel. We have so much more content there. We have all these podcasts, but we also have formats called Grad You Did, which is little mini docs about graduates. First one is on an instructor from Dallas named Nagaris Johnson. He's awesome. If you're on YouTube, click a link in the description to check that video out. We're also doing tutorials. We're calling them 120 seconds or 2-minute tutorials that range from all the different programs from MediaTech, from film to mobile app development and everything in between. So the YouTube channel is really going to be getting built out. So go subscribe there. And again, schedule a tour of MediaTech. They're super happy to do that, walk you through the campus, whichever one you'd like to go to. And the people here are super nice and they're ready to see you. So I really want to thank you guys for joining us today. And I guess I'm sure we'll be talking to you again soon on a future podcast.
No, for sure.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.